Flyers. They were not uncommon at all in the domain of Q. At least a dozen worlds sported human-derived flying species of one kind or another. Most resembled the bats or the pterosaurs of bygone past, dancing through the anther like angels or demons, depending on the point of view. There were a few bizarre kinds that relied on swollen gas glands for floating as well. Sadly, most of these creatures were already too specialized to be anything but flyers. They had forsaken their humanity for the conquest of the sky. They had little potential for further radiation beyond their limited roles. The only exception proved out to be a monkey-like species that flew on wing membranes stretched across the last two fingers. Their advantage was a unique turbine-like heart, artificially developed during the regime of the Q. No other human flyer in the galaxy had such an adaptation. The starfish-shaped organ sat in the middle of their chest, directly funneling oxygen from the lungs to the bloodstream in a supremely efficient way. This meant that the flyers could develop energy-consuming adaptations such as large brains without having to give up their power of flight. Not that the flyers were going to reclaim their sentience right away. Instead, they literally exploded into skies, filling the heavens with anything from bomber-sized sailors to impossibly fast predators that raced with sound. Their world was pristine, and there were plenty of niches to play into. Intelligence could wait a little more. Pterosapiens, descendants of the flyers. The flyers' supercharged hearts had given them an evolutionary winning hand, and they diversified to fill up the heavens. It was only a matter of time before the competition in the skies got too intense, even for their souped-up metabolisms. Some lineages gave up their wings and returned to the ground, living as differing sorts of predators, herbivores, and even swimmers. Their aerial adaptations gave them an edge on the ground, and they produced forms of stupendous size and agility. There were wonderful beings, but no sentience came out of the terrestrial sky beasts. Instead, civilization flowered in the skies. One species from a line of waiting stork-like predators evolved a brain that was large enough to imagine and act upon the world. Their feet, already versatile to catch slippery, swamp-dwelling prey, got even more articulate and assumed the role of hands. As a compensation, they lost some of their aerial streamlining, but what they could not do with their bodies, they were more than able to make up with their minds. The power of flight made the pterosapiens a global folk before they could invent nations and borders. With such an inherent ease of travel, ideas and individuals diffused too fast for social differences to ossify. Acting with a planetary awareness, they farmed their gigantic terrestrial relatives, raised cities of perches and fluting towers, harnessed the atom, and began to gaze up to the stars without having to compensate too much for the average individual's welfare and without dividing up into quarrelsome factions. As egalitarian as their life seemed, they paid a stunting, inevitable price. Their hearts, even in their boosted state. As a consequence, they had an ephemeral existence. A pterosapien was sexually mature at 2, middle-aged by 16, and usually dead by 23 years of age. This grim cycle caused them to appreciate every moment of their existence dearly, and they pondered upon it with fervish intensity. A shelf of scrolls by pterosapien philosophers would have been the envy of even human libraries. In their cities, life blazed away with unreal speed, rushing past to meet fleeting deadlines. As a species, the angelic flyers were victims of heart disease.